something that we have to deal with for a lot of non-technical business owners is that there's still this thought process, this line of thinking that's really plagued software development for decades. And it's the idea that more developers means a better product, and more developers means it gets done even faster. Why is that not the case, especially with AI enabled software development in 2026?
Yeah, I think this is a common misconception. More is better. It pays to have a bigger team, right? More firepower, more capability. But in the past, before AI, the bottleneck has always been the work itself. It has been typing on a keyboard to get the knowledge that is up here into a computer program and get that into a client's hands so that they can review it. They can make sure it fits their business needs. And that's just not the case anymore. These days, you can produce code faster than anybody can review it, faster than anybody can possibly comb through it. So now the bottleneck in work has shifted to reviewing correctness, right? And I don't mean like, was the software written correctly? I mean, did we understand your intent correctly? When you said, I need to sell XYZ, did we understand what that process looked like in your mind? Did we understand you correctly? What does that boil down to? That all boils down to communication. It all boils down to in interfacing with you and communicating with you. Did I understand what you're saying? And did I put together something that captured your intent? Now, since that's the bottleneck, if you want to make that bottleneck worse, add a second human who now you have 3 lanes of communication, add a third human, a fourth human. The more people you add, the more that communication breakdown can occur, not just between the key stakeholders and the developers or the designers or the project managers, but inside the team, right? The developer might misunderstand the designer, or maybe the designer misunderstood the key stakeholder and he gave something to the developer that just doesn't work. With AI, your developer can be your designer and he can be your project manager. And if he's your sole point of contact, there's only one person that needs to make sure they're communicating with one person that makes sure that they're understanding one person, right? It is just a two-way street. So because the bottleneck is no longer me typing on a keyboard, getting code out, it is actually understanding its intent and its communication. Hey, I built this thing. Can you go test it? Can you make sure that this fits what you had in mind? It actually pays to have a smaller team. The smaller, the better. With all of our clients, we have one developer paired with, at a minimum, one key stakeholder. Sometimes it's one developer to 3, 4, 5 people. But at the end of the day, we only have one person who needs to understand their intent, build something, collect feedback, and iterate. And that's way better than having a team of 5 people. It might seem like 5 people can get more done. It's absolutely not true in post AI.
But Adam, if one developer with AI can be effective, then why can't 10 with AI be effective?
You're right. 10x productivity increase, right? Just throwing more hands at it. But the problem is, how does AI work? Does AI go out and understand your client for you, or do you have to tell AI what to do? This goes back to our, you and I have said this before, we speak this way with our clients. AI is an exoskeleton. If you take the human out of the exoskeleton, what does the exoskeleton do? It just sits there in a pile on the floor. It doesn't do anything. It still has to have intent driving it. So again, intent is our bottleneck. Understanding is our bottleneck. Communication is our bottleneck. So yes, in theory, you could have 10 developers produce 10 times the lines of code. Lines of code is not how we build things. And especially when one developer can output 10 times the amount of lines of code, you're never really bottlenecked. In fact, I cannot think of a single client that we have where they wait on us for work to get done. Maybe for a couple days at a time, right? Like the developer will get intent. They will show what they've worked on. They'll say, hey, what's the next thing? Where are we headed? What is the North Star? And then maybe they'll go heads down for a few days, maybe a week. But then we're waiting on them to use the software to give us feedback. So what happens when that shrinks down to a couple of hours? Well, you could get a weird problem where it's like we ship things so freaking fast that the other client just like they're constantly Actually, we should just cut this whole thing. I don't think that this is. I don't think that this is. I don't think it's a valid point. What I was going to say
No,
to
I
finish my
think I
thought.
actually think it is, because I think it's we a good developer can operate, because the fallacy is that, well, this isn't going to work for me. I'm too big, or that there's some edge case that makes our situation unique. But this is between 7 million to a few $100 million organizations, and it's still, at the end of the day, with both situations, we operate with one developer. I'd say 90% of the developer's time is bottlenecked by the speed of feedback from the customer. And I think that's
Exactly.
completely valid, because if you have 5 people, that doesn't go away. That is the bottleneck. And so
It actually gets worse.
if our clients could put their business aside entirely and go, all right, I'm just going to focus on building this all day, every day, then sure. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Maybe adding more bodies could give us more development efficiency, but that's not
Yeah.
how businesses operate.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. When the bottleneck moves to communication, adding more people makes it worse.
That's
Full
exactly it.
stop.
That's exactly it. And I know we talked about this last video, or now that I guess that would be 2 videos ago at this point when this is released. We talked about the Mythical Man Month. And when I research this topic of people hiring developers, this obviously comes up. So, considering that this has been well documented and this book has been out since the 70s, can you break down a little bit more of what the Mythical Man Month is and why this is something that has been noted in software development since essentially software development has been around?
Software is not like construction. In construction, there are hard physical labor tasks that are known well in advance that you can actually plan for. And while you might have some delays, like weather delays and things like that, software is infinitely more complex because we cannot visually wrap our minds around the system that we're building. So a software developer, what they become really good at is they become good at zooming in on a small part of the system, understanding how it works, making it fit the client needs, and then zooming back out at the whole system. So that creates a dynamic where it is impossible to perfectly estimate the size and the complexity. And a lot of times, software begets software. I added feature X, and that actually moved the bottleneck of my business. It's no longer getting the orders into the system. Now it's fulfilling the orders. So now I need a feature to make fulfilling the orders faster. In construction, when you finish someone's house, you could add a pool, maybe throw up a fence, but it's not like you don't finish a single family home and then immediately say, hey, let's add 1,600 square feet onto it. Like, I just realized that I want double the house, right? So in construction, there are very solid, finite, concrete limitations.
Let's see what you did there.
So the Mythical Man Month is basically trying to help non-technical people understand, why is software different? It's not a factory floor. It's not a construction site. It's not even data entry. It is closer to producing art than it is to building a building. When you do any sort of art, you iterate. You start with an idea and you love it and you build on it, or you hate it and you throw it away and you start new. Software is a lot of the same things. As you build it, certain things become obvious that you could not have predicted in hindsight. And so the software adapts as you're building it. As the client is seeing things, you might build something and the client goes, this is amazing. It just gave me this incredible other idea, and we need to also build this. It's impossible to know those things at the forefront. So to bring all that together, you have this work that adapts as you work on it. It changes as you work on it. And the more people you add to it, the more parts are changing, the more everything is just kind of uncertain and up in the air. So if you have 10 people working on a single project, the amount of changing requirements and uncertainty and communication bottlenecks is going to create, it makes everything harder. Whereas if you have one person who can hold all of the communication that they've received from the client. They can hold all of it in their head, and they can communicate back to the client, and it just makes things easier. Of course, before AI, having one person meant one person doing all the hard work, all the communication, the intent, and the extracting requirements and all that stuff. And then they had to actually type it out and make sure the program was correct. Typing out and making sure the program is correct are two of the easier tasks now with AI-enabled development. The part that AI can't really help us much with is the communication, the understanding of intent, and the communication review process with the client. So again, the bottleneck has shifted, and it's always been the case that the more people you get together, the harder communication is. So now that the bottleneck has shifted to the already existing hard problem of communication, throwing more developers at it just makes it even harder. And that's all I have to say about that. That's all I have to say.
What's the typical example that he uses in the book? What, you can't take 9 women and have them have a baby in a month?
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
software development.
There are some things that are just sequential. It is not until I see X that I get the idea for Y. I could not have predicted Y ahead of time. And even if I could have, depending on the feature, X might have needed to be built first. And maybe X took 3 months and Y was a nice to have and we're behind schedule and we say we're throwing Y out. Well, we wouldn't have chosen to throw Y out if we knew that we were going to be behind schedule at the beginning. So
right.
It's very fluid. It is a consecutive iterative process.
And that's why we harp on, in the way that we build things, we've uniquely identified the North Star being what aligns incentives and direction for both the client and the developer. So everyone's heading the same way, because the focus is on speed. We recognize that some things cannot be planned out ahead of time. So let's articulate where are we all heading to make a meaningful impact in the business. And if we can articulate that really well and uncover what are we actually solving for and all head in that direction, then you can ship something, especially with AI-driven development, in a few weeks and then have something in a few months that is ready to go, as opposed to trying to think through every situation and every possibility of which you're not going to be able to do anyways, right. As opposed to just articulating what actually matters, what we're actually trying to solving for that thing in the quickest amount of time, and then being able to iterate. And so I want to ask a question, Adam, because when we started our business years ago, we would work with anybody before we kind of doubled down into custom software for businesses. And now we're focusing more on distribution, construction, manufacturing, and even some agriculture these days. But before that, we were just kind of like open to helping anybody. And we have brought in a startup before that we were helping build something for. It was still a tangible problem, but it was a startup nonetheless. And I think it made us realize we don't want to work with startups. And no offense to any startup founders out there, but that's just not what we enjoy doing, nor is it as tangible for just how we operate our business. We like to solve business problems. That's what lights a fire underneath us, and that's what we've kind of put all our chips into. And one of the reasons for that is because it is very common, I feel like, and Adam, I'd be curious to know your thoughts here. I think it's common for startup founders to over-engineer things and to, instead of focusing on like what they're trying to solve for to get their product, viable fit in the market, product market fit, they're trying to over-engineer, and they'll commonly accept these. Well, I need to hire a developer. Well, I need to hire 5. Well, I need to build this like an enterprise application, when they don't even understand entirely what does that actually mean or what the implications are. So I know we don't service that type of person, but as for someone who might be thinking, well, more has to be better because I have to build an enterprise product, what would you say as to kind of help someone understand that it's kind of futile to go down that route of thinking and over engineering solutions?
In my experience, over engineering comes from this perspective of software for software's sake. We can, therefore we should. I don't agree with that perspective. I think that software should exist to serve the business and the business exists to serve people. So if you can make your software help you and your business serve people better, those people might be your customers, they might be your own employees, or it might be you. If your software can help you serve those people better, then you should at least entertain the idea, right? Like you should at least explore it. It doesn't mean that it's always worth it. If you can serve 10 people really well with a spreadsheet, that's great. Does building the software let you serve 100 people at the same quality? Then it's worth considering software. But, and this is where it gets tricky, as soon as you've built the software, you will begin to see the universe of possibilities open up in front of your eyes. And it is very tempting. You're going to see all of this allegedly, supposedly low-hanging fruit, easy features to hammer out. And you'll stop asking yourself, does this help me serve people better? And I don't mean that in a strictly altruistic sense. Like me making more money so I can serve fewer clients at a higher quality is helping me serve people better. So I don't mean this has to be like all charity but at the end of the day, business is about serving people. It is about making other people's problems go away. So I think we have to look through that lens in order to avoid this kind of like software bloat. Software does not exist for software's sake. Software exists to make you better at whatever it is that you were trying to do. And you have to look through that scope, and you have to be pretty ruthless and honest with yourself. So I think that's where people kind of fall into that spirals. We can, therefore we should. And as software gets cheaper, I think that's going to get worse. You really have to be able to dial back and say, what problem or inefficiency am I trying to make go away so that I can serve other people better? And if you start there, you're going to build impactful software that helps you.
Yeah. Adam, this was great. And for anyone who's out there who is building software in your business, or you have software problems, or you're rebuilding a legacy application, full transparency, we build this content to help you gain tips and things that you can implement in your business today. But if you do not have a tech partner or a tech guy, or that guy is retired and you can't get a hold of him anymore, then and you still need help, we'd love for you to reach out. We have a link below where you can book a consultation with us. It's completely free. We'll evaluate your situation, give you some suggestions on kind of road mapping what your options are to solving some of your problems. This is, again, Jake and Adam, co-founders of Pilot West Studios out of Nashville, Tennessee. Thank you so much for watching.